I think the approach of lots of law firms and businesses more generally actually to stress and well-being is more cure rather than prevention, and they're getting increasingly good, businesses and law firms, at offering things like paid for counselling, well-being initiatives, paid for gym memberships, so on and so forth. But actually I think the most powerful thing any law firm can do is ensure that workloads are manageable, because actually our data shows that unmanageable workloads are in actual fact the primary cause of stress in the first place. So if you look at prevention and going to the root cause, I think that is a hell of a lot more effective than anything else that a law firm can do. I think in the first place they've got to make sure they're recruiting the right lawyers, because any business is going to have an uphill battle to retain people if they're bringing the wrong people through the door in the first place. So that's about values alignment and making sure they're on the right page. The second thing is continually developing and updating their employer value proposition and their whole offering that they offer to lawyers, because the things that lawyers in particular deem important, they change over time, and so that's got to be agile. Law firms have got to move with the times and market conditions. And the third thing I would say they need to do to make sure they're retaining the best lawyers and the right lawyers is to not be afraid to get rid of the wrong lawyers, because actually I think there's nothing more demotivating and likely to cause people to leave than seeing underperformance and bad behaviour and the wrong people be allowed to continue. I think it boils down to strategy for me, and I think the first thing a law firm could do on this front around their strategy is look at their pricing structure, because if you get your pricing structure correct, you should be able to hit your turnover and profitability targets without anybody needing to be overworked. And the second thing directly stems from that, being that then if your pricing structure is right, you have sufficient money to invest in the appropriate level of resource. I'm talking both people, so having the right team structures and support in place, but also infrastructure, so the right tools to enable people to be productive and properly manage their workloads. And the third thing that they can strategically do is set their culture correctly. So reward and encourage people for being open about struggles with workload, and deliberately not encourage and reinforce behaviours that are damaging, like people working over and above their hours they're supposed to frequently, that ultimately leads to burnout. Thinking about this in terms of how I manage my workload to not have an adverse impact on my well-being, like everybody I'm learning, but the first thing I do is try to make sure that my workload is realistic in the first place, and that the deadlines I'm setting myself are realistic in the first place, and I often have to get a second pair of eyes on those things. The next thing that I'm increasingly doing is setting very clear boundaries. So concrete boundaries around when I'm working and when I'm not working, and being very disciplined with myself and sticking to that. But also boundaries when I am working, in terms of when I'm available to be interrupted and have a chat and support people, versus when I'm not available and I'm getting my head down and working through my workload to make sure I'm productive. And I think over and above that, I do the things that I suppose a lot of people do. Like, I try to exercise, I try to walk, I spend time with my dog, I spend time with my family, and I try to be kind to myself in the sense that I like to eat dirty food at weekends. And so I'm kind to myself and allowing myself to do that, but try to counterbalance that by being a bit more disciplined and healthy during the week. Actually, it's pretty simple, because our purpose is to be the best place to work, and I don't think any business could claim to be the best place to work if the well-being and happiness of the people that work there isn't top level. So it means a lot, because it shows that we're on a good trajectory.